You're listening to Titans of the Trades. I'm your host, Ryan England, author of Hire Better People Faster and creator of the CoreFit hiring system, a proven process to help growing companies attract and retain only the best. I'm on a mission to revolutionize the perception of the trades and elevate it to new heights. After growing up in a blue-collar family, my passion for making the trades cool again runs deep. If you're a titan in the industry and want to be on my show, stick around until the end and I'll reveal how you can be my next guest. I'm your host, Ryan England. Get ready for a brand new episode. Today's guest has been through that trial, that journey of owning and operating a great successful business, having it taken away from him, building it back up to where now he just owns it and it operates completely without him, giving him time to go start another venture that he's incredibly passionate about. And that's helping contractors grow and scale their business using automation and AI. Want to introduce today's show, Jay Carter, founder of Jay Carter Roofing, as well as the Contractor AI. Let's jump in. Jay, welcome to the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Excited to be here.
Yeah, it's been a few weeks since we talked. We met on your show and had a great conversation. I was like, hey, the next step is I got to introduce you to our listeners. So that's why we're here today. So I'm excited to hear your story. Started a roofing company, had some really interesting things to share. And so I'm just going to turn over to you. Just give us a quick background on what got you here.
Yeah, so I guess kind of upfront, I am a contractor that's done a lot of things the very hard way, including starting out, probably backwards to most. I was started my business in high school, and started off as a shingler, and sort of worked myself up into a subcontractor. Started really, really early. I don't know if that was an advantage or a disadvantage, to be honest with you, but kind of really got a good unfair advantage in that my age and that I didn't have families and stuff. I think like most people do when they're starting out their business, really dumb, like really, really dumb, just did dumb things, took big risks. When it all worked out, some things worked and some things didn't. My failures were spectacular though. And I usually like to start with those because most people think because you've gotten somewhere that there was no challenges along the way. And I'm here to tell you that there certainly is. One of my experiences when, starting the business out, like I said, didn't have any overhead, running it out of mom's basement for a while. Like it was good times, but we grew very, very quickly. I was really, kind of off the bat, a self-professed and recovering yes man. Got caught up with some commercial builders that really made a lot of profit for me, and I was very determined to impress them. And really what that amounted and where that led me to is being way, way over my head and having to come to an understanding that, I can't be everything and I can't be everything to everyone. And near bankruptcies, doing about $12 million down to, 3 or 4 guys, lawsuits, all that kind of stuff. Really, again, like I said, a lot of lessons, a lot of pain kind of along the way in learning those lessons. I think a lot of guys really kind of struggle with these things, this fear of failure. And my advantage was I was just too dumb to realize how painful that would be at the time. And I'm always curious to see what kind of holds people back from, kind of taking those chances in their businesses and what keeps guys stuck. So we do, right now I prefer to try to help people not be stuck. That's kind of where I get my energy from now. Make sense?
Yeah. I've heard this phrase before. Everybody's a overnight success after 15 years, right?
For sure. Yeah.
Nobody's paying attention to all the failures and the stumbles and the setbacks, but then all of a sudden you hit it big and they're like, see, look, it's just luck. And I think your story is testament to that.
For sure. And the other side of that is I don't think people really appreciate their own failures and how much it led to their success. Because I'll tell you, if I didn't have those failures and they weren't so painful and they weren't so outright traumatic for me, I would not be where I am, and I would not be living as close to my core values as I am now. And that's the honest truth. Like, a lot of times and it's a mindset thing, but I like to say things are happening for us, not to us. Right.
So What were some of those lessons that you learned? Think of some of the bigger ones, the ones that were,
Yeah.
impactful and maybe even like journey changing. Like, oh, I'm not going to go right. I'm going to go left because of this lesson that I learned. What are some of those things you could share with us?
Okay. So maybe I'll just kind of go back to where I was forced into a change, where it was the most profound kind of moment. I was, as I said, a little over my head. We had about 30, 40 guys at the time. I'm 26 years old, and I'm doing commercial flat roofs. Way out of control of my business. So imagine this. I'm driving to a job site to drop material off as a CEO of a multi-million dollar company. And it happened to be an historic church in town. And this historic church, town's very proud of. Grew up in this particular town. And while I got there just in time to kind of see some problems, being that there was smoke coming from the roof. My guys were on the roof. Within 2 hours, we burnt that baby to the ground. About $25 million loss, while 50 million on paper, claimed a lot more. And in the matter of a couple hours, I watched my business burn to the ground. My insurance covered for 5 million. I was on the hook for the other 8, and it was in a battle with the Catholic Church, which was the most intense, prolonged experience. And it was a moment that I had on site, and I don't remember a lot of it because when I say trauma, like it was very, very difficult. So like, I don't remember from the time I had to get off the roof to like basically, when the press guys were knocking on my window to get a statement of, what exactly occurred. But I remember, kind of not knowing what to do next and really feeling the most alone that you could ever feel, and realizing that, hey, everything I had done, all the hard work and all the, the accomplishment I thought I had has mounted to this place where I am now, and I have nothing. And it was that point that I realized, hey, you know what? Like, this isn't fun anymore. And in the coming out of that sort of thing, one of the most profound people for me was the bank actually assigned me a crisis manager. So they knew they were out a lot of money. There was a lot of other things to do with that too. Like all our job sites were stopped. I had to let go of people. Like it was a disaster of all disasters. And for 2 days, I didn't leave the basement. I hid out, didn't talk to my significant other at the time. And, I got a phone call, and I hadn't answered any calls. It was weird, but I answered his call, and we went out for lunch. And I remember in the conversation, he basically gave me an ultimatum. He's like, you know what? You have two choices, right? You can stand up and continue to fight, and you can learn from the experience, right? Or you can lay down and be like everyone else. And that's your choice, right? Now, what I took away from that was this guy actually just gave me the first honest information that anyone had ever given me, and the first time I was willing to listen to what somebody else told me. Because I had this chip on my shoulders, and I had this belief in my head because I had not experienced the failures. I hadn't gone through struggles before. Like I just worked really hard, like stupidly, right? But it was at that very moment that I realized, and a light bulb went off, and going, oh, I can't do this on myself. I need help. And when I was able to say that, and when I was able to actually express that, that's when things started to really change. They didn't get better, they changed. Big difference. So they got only better after I started listening enough and doing what I was being told. All right. Finding people that knew more than I did, had done the things I wanted to do, were in the places I wanted to be, and really understanding my why of like, why am I doing this? What's motivating me to make these decisions, and separating myself from the thoughts, because the thoughts aren't who we are, right? The thoughts are what we have, but they're not who we are. And, it's hard to explain that to a 26-year-old that, those thoughts, you just don't take actions on them. So,
I mean, I think about this. You were 26, you were in a lawsuit or in trouble with the church and the banks and your business and everything else. And when I was 26, I still didn't know what I wanted to do with my life. The scariest thing for me was getting a speeding ticket and, dating my future wife. Like those were the things I was dealing with at 26. And so I imagine that experience not only caused you to mature very quickly as a business owner and as a human being, as a man, but also learned a lot out of that. So fast forward a little bit, and you still stayed in that same industry. You still had either that business or a different one, correct?
No. So I still own the company. So I did see, again, this is when you don't know what you don't know. I should have folded that business back then and not fought for, because I spent another 6 years on top of that repaying that debt.
Wow.
Repaying the Catholic Church till they finally forgave me for 3 million of that $8 million debt. So we paid back $5 million to the Catholic Church for that loss, which I'm not proud of, because if I had known better, again, if I could go back and redo it all, my pride and my ego got in the way, and the attachment to the business got in the way of that decision, because really the business isn't me either, right? And now
Mm.
that I've learned and matured and grown. I think too many guys attach their identity to the business, and again, it comes back to values. Why are you doing,
Yeah.
like, why is this important? Like, is a business you? And for me, it exposed who I was, and I was a weak 26-year-old kid, just like everyone else. There was nothing different about me other than my entitlement at that point for getting somewhere that no one around was. But I didn't realize, again, how limiting that is. And, just my actions, it took me another 6 years to dig out of that hole, and, and have the next major aha moment in my life.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Um, it's so interesting you said that. I just had someone on the show that talked about exit strategy and how
Mm,
connecting their identity to their business. And
totally.
I mean, just like, whoa, I
Right.
mean, literally within the last 24 hours, we had this conversation. And so, I mean, that's a real thing. But now
Totally.
here you are, fast forward again,
Hmm.
that business is thriving. You've just started and have a successful software business to help contractors. How are
Hmm.
you doing all this?
Yeah, I mean, that's an equally as great question. So again, I think if I had to contribute it to one thing, it's the day I stopped waking up and thinking about money, all right, was the day I started making more than I needed. All right. And the day I started really thinking about a problem to solve versus chasing something or acquiring something without, the real why behind it, was when the clarity came, the understanding, and like
Right.
I can laser focus in on things, and I'm able to see what's a distraction. I'm able to remove things from my life that aren't bringing value. And that is contagious. It goes down the line to everyone you encounter or work with. So we've moved very quickly. The business is the proudest thing. The most proud thing that I have is my business operates without me. And it has so
Wow.
for 5 years. And I think, again, we're all trying to acquire that, but that takes a different level of skills. And it's the evolution you go through, moving from being a tradesman, moving up to being, a half-ass project manager, then from a project manager to an owner, and now, I would say it's a CEO mindset, realizing that, hey, you know what? These are nothing more than investments, right? Just like anything else, I'm not going to put money out to something that isn't going to give me a return that I can control my risk on, right?
Yeah.
Again, it's another big jump into the way that people think, and the way that most contractors enter. And you mentioned exit. Uh, we should always be thinking about the exit. And certainly I am, but that's much easier said than done, right? So how many guys' identity is tied into the business? Everything they do in front of their family, they become it. And the longer you do it, the more it becomes you, right? You
Hmm.
know, how often do you hear your business name in it and you're like, that's me? And breaking that is, maybe I can give you a good example. The day that my business no longer needed me was the coldest, loneliest day besides the fire that I had. That was the second most traumatic kind of moment where I realized I have no purpose. My purpose was all it tied up in this business, all my time, all like everything, all my energy, all these traumatic things were, wrongly invested, in just getting to one place, to that one
Mm.
destination. And unfortunately, and fortunately, I'll say it's both ways. You make a new discovery, right? You discover that, hey, I could have enjoyed the journey. I could have had all the things that are really important to me in life. My health, my relationships, all the other things that come along with living and being alive. All right, and still have my cake and eat it too. And I don't think that's taught enough. And I don't think there's enough tools for guys to realize that. I think a lot of contractors, and I talk to contractors day in and day out, they feel stuck. They feel, in a lot of cases, hopeless. they're jumping at shiny objects. And I remember all that, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the only way to kind of get around that is understanding more about yourself and why you're doing things, what's motivating you, where, you know, where you get your energy from even, right? Like, what actually gives you energy and motivates you to do what you're doing? Because, hey, like, you have to be a little bit crazy to be a contractor. You have to have a couple of bolts loose. You do. Like, think about all the risk, all the crap that we put up with,
Yeah.
all the factors that go into it. Like a logical businessman is not really looking at these businesses going like, hey, that looks like a fun ride. That looks like
You
an
know,
easy money.
we do a lot of work around purpose, and
Mm-hmm.
most people are like, what's the importance of purpose? Why do we care? I'm like, well, it's why you do what you
Right.
do.
Totally.
And they're like, oh, well, because it's good money. I'm like, yeah, but there are easier ways to make good money than be a
Mm-hmm.
contractor.
Well, and
And they're like,
again,
oh,
yeah,
because I have freedom or because of what I know. I'm like, no, let's get to why you chose this. You know,
totally. And then again, once you know your why, you have to match that to the how and the what and all those things, right? So,
sure.
if we're taking and we understand like the why might be, and it's actually thought out. Like that's the challenge, right? Like really consider like, are these values mine or are they somebody else's? Am I wearing somebody else's underwear? Like, is it a parent or somebody else's expectation that I meet this goal, or is it truly mine, right? And when you
Yeah.
find that, it's for me again in terms of being a business leader and finding time, everything's about efficiency. My thoughts again are the biggest distractor that I can have. The habits that I form by not having the purpose and value, all right, is what doesn't allow me to get to where I want to be, right? Which, you can take something that could take a month to get to, or you can spend 6 years, right? It all comes down to the habits and the plan you have in place,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. So as we conclude the show here, I'd love to know, is there a tip or an action item or something that our listeners should be doing if they go, you know what? I'm ready. I think I'm ready to make it so the business doesn't need me. Like,
Mm,
what is something that our listeners can go do that can
totally.
start moving them down that path that maybe they haven't already thought of?
Yes, totally. So here's what I'm going to say. So it's neither system or people. All right. If you don't put yourself first and you don't cure and really think about, you know, um, values and stuff. And I know I keep bringing up, I sound like a broken record, but if you don't prepare yourself for what's about to come and you don't really start living up to the things you want to be and the people that you feel that are in the place you want to be, is never going to happen, right? And then we just end up chasing things. So for me, it's really that internal reflection, realizing that things change over time. We have to be constantly willing to challenge our own beliefs. We have to be willing to take out negative programming. We have to do that deep work. We have to slow down to speed up. All right. If you want to go faster, it's not about the amount of things you can do. It's more about the quality of things you can do, right? The actual things that matter, the actual priority things. And if you can, you know, retrain yourself and you're self-regulating and you don't need to have hundreds of thousands of dollars in coaches. And even if you do, that's fine too. We're no problem there. But if you're really internally, taking care of these things, the rest is going to follow. All right. People
Yeah.
want to follow sound people. They want to follow people that are inspired. They want to follow people that have clarity. We all want to be led, right? How do you become that leader? You be the leader of yourself first.
Yeah. You and I talked about this the last time we met, just change management.
Totally.
And, when it comes to change, like it's hardest to change ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
We want everybody else to change around us, but we don't want to
Right.
change. And we find that in the work we do with the corporate hiring system and hiring better people and thinking about being a better leader and how to be a better a boss and a better owner, a lot of it's so much mindset, which is exactly what
It's
you're talking about now. It's that talk, that self-talk, that stuff we tell ourselves,
totally. It,
and
and
hard
I
stuff
think
to
what
overcome.
Yeah, I think what most people don't realize about all that is that can be systemized. Just like your business, no word of a lie. And again, I talk a lot about this and I feel passionate about it, but like think about where your accountability, like who's holding you accountable? Who's keeping you on track for where you want to go, right? it's a trackable, measurable system. It's data driven. Like your habits, your thoughts, like how you behave and what you can control and what you can call out. So if you can plan 3 months and stick to those things, I mean, those are the habits that you need to succeed in business, right? They're also the habits you need to succeed in life. So imagine that the two of them go together, and we're actually coming up as full people, right? Rather than just maybe a successful business owner that gets to the destination and realizes it's not what they wanted, right? Or it wasn't what they expected. That's not a good thing either.
Yeah. Well, you're definitely making it happen. And I know there are people out there that are listening right now going, okay, I want to check this guy out. I want to learn a little bit more. You've got a way for them to connect with you online. Can you share that with our listeners?
Sure. So we have a Facebook group called the Contractor AI Group. That's a great place to kind of come and meet with us. From there, I mean, we have some other networks, but that's probably where I'd send everyone, right off the bat, or, j.carter@thecontractor.ai for my email.
Awesome. I've enjoyed this. I love that there's this mindset component that you've really worked on, and you found some practical, tactical things that can help you systematize it so that you can move forward and ultimately get the business that you really want to have. So thank you for sharing that today. I've really enjoyed the conversation.
Yeah, thank you.
Ryan England here. Thank you so much for listening to Titans of the Trades. If you're a titan in the construction, manufacturing, or skilled trades industry and would like to be a guest on my show, please visit podcast.corematters.com. If you found value in this interview, would you share this episode on social media? Just do a quick screenshot on your phone and share it with a friend or post it on social. And if you know someone that would be a great guest, tag them on social media to let them know about the show and include the hashtag Titans of the Trades. I love seeing your posts and guest suggestions. We are regularly putting out new episodes and content. To make sure you don't miss any episodes, click the subscribe button. Your thumbs up, ratings, and reviews go a long way to help promote the show and get me one step closer to solving the labor crisis facing the industry. Want to know more about how we're doing that? Go to our website or follow me on LinkedIn. Thanks for listening.